Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try a little experiment here with a visual learning channel for roller derby rules. We have a long rule book. Most of you don't read it, if we're being honest, and some of you are better visual learners than book learners, and that is understandable. A little bit about myself. I am Sergeant Sparkles. I've been a roller derby skating official for 5 years now. I have reffed both USARs and WFTDA. I now enjoy reffing home games a little more and traveling a little less. In 1 year, I have put in 11,000 miles for roller derby, so I do appreciate a mellower schedule, but I do enjoy the rule set themselves. I enjoy making rules tests. At one point in time, we had a 600-question rules test that was just pretty much designed to break your spirit, and so now we're going to go about explaining some of those rules in some different ways. If this works and people like it, we'll break out the better cameras, break out the lav mics, get some better sound, a little more professional setup. But for now, we're just going to kind of run an experiment here. We're going to address today direction of gameplay penalties with relation to track layout, because most people don't seem to understand, well, why am I getting a direction call? I know I was skating in the right direction. I know my skates were facing the right direction. And, in fact, the direction your skates are pointing has absolutely nothing to do with that penalty at all. We now refer to skating in the proper direction as derby direction. And you have to understand how a track is laid out and how that's decided. So now we have essentially a roller derby track, just a basic oval, nothing special. And looking at this, one would just naturally assume that here's where our derby direction's going. But that's not all there is to it. See, the track has lines across it that throughout the center of the track are every 10 feet apart. So they're a little closer here in the corners, and they're exactly 10 feet here. We're going to put those in now, and that's how we're going to understand where our direction and gameplay penalties come from and where people don't feel like they penalized when, in fact, an official addresses them and gives them a penalty. So, through this batch of turns here, we see that we have our 10-foot lines, and this distance here is greater than these distances here, and then out here, we're a lot larger than 10 feet. So these lines are a 90-degree angle to this point on the inner line of the track. The big thing there is this line is where we're determining if you break 90 degrees. And if your movement breaks 90 degrees, that is how you get the direction and gameplay penalty. So if we have a skater on this track, we're going to do the skater in orange. And we're going to say the skater is right here. Now she can hit within 100, or she can engage, I should say, within a 180-degree window as long as she is moving in derby direction. Her hit window will do in a whole different color. We're going to fill that in. So she can hit while moving in any direction in a straight line within this field. These are all directions she could be skating and hit. She cannot hit moving in this direction. Now, that would constitute a direction of gameplay penalty if she engages, alters position of an opponent while engaging, or knocks them down, basically an impact spectrum penalty on an opponent moving in that direction. Now, a lot of skaters won't feel they got a direction of gameplay penalty because they didn't skate this way. Now, while they didn't skate non-derby direction, in the opposite sense of derby direction, in a total opposite, they did break that 90-degree plane and can be addressed a direction of gameplay penalty. The corners are where people get into trouble with this. It's really easy to just naturally feel and understand, your hitting directions on a straightaway. It's the G-forces in the corner and the fact that the track is shorter on the inside than it is on the outside through a corner that gets skaters in trouble. Probably 90% of the direction and gameplay penalties I personally have called have come while cornering. So most of you who are getting direction and gameplay calls and don't understand it, you're doing this right here. Just barely breaking that 90-degree plane, either that direction or this direction, by 10 degrees or so. You are breaking derby direction and breaking that 90-degree plane. Now, the other reason you may be confused is due to a newer clarification on the direction of gameplay rules where we refer to stop blocking. Stop blocking has become a frustrating call for a lot of skaters who were in bad habits beforehand and now like to engage and just feel comfortable engaging without moving in a derby direction. You do have to move in a derby direction, and you cannot be stopped while hitting, engaging, or altering someone's position, and you are subject to a stop block penalty. That is a direction of gameplay penalty, but it will be called verbally as a stop block. Now, WFDDA has recently clarified quite a few penalty calls, and they are being called as the subset penalty, or that sub-penalty, stop blocking being a sub-penalty of direction of gameplay. That is going to affect how a lot of you play, and unfortunately it's something that skaters are going to have to get used to, as it's a really common penalty now, and it's been instituted by WFDDA via committee. It's not something that a bunch of random referees got together and decided. This was decided by skaters, by officials on a committee, and by the higher-ups in WFDDA that that is a penalty we're going to institute. It's in the rule book, and everyone has agreed to abide by that rule book and play by it. If you have any further questions on stop blocks, direction of gameplays, or other track orientation related penalties, feel free to drop it in the comments or just drop us a direct message. I'm going to go ahead and try and answer them as best we can. Please don't troll the comments, and remember, the officials are always right, even when they're wrong.